He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and
The Cold War was an amazingly twisted time when people tried to develop rational scenarios where they might murder millions of people. This was expressed in American culture through books like Failsafe, through movies like Dr. Strangelove, through think tanks like the Rand Corporation, and through games. This video is the story of one such game, B-1 Bomber or B-1 Nuclear Bomber. A few months ago I showed you Nukewar, a game that simulated the race to build and then use ICBMs and nuclear submarines. Avalon-Hill's Nukewar, for all the simulated deaths it contained, was an abstract game. The names of the two countries involved were provided by the player, and the game itself played out on an initially empty grid. Yes, you were killing millions of people, but they were very abstract people. B-1 Bomber, in contrast, is a lot more specific. You're flying a bomber when you receive an alert telling you to fire a 1 megaton warhead at a specific named target in the Soviet Union. You're given backup targets in case the first one is unavailable. The manual goes out of its way to let you know that the population of the target is more than 1 million people. So I'm going to do a let's play of the game, and I just wanted to start out by saying that while doing the Let's Play, I'm going to be a little bit flip about the content of the game. This isn't because I think nuclear war is a laughing matter, but because I don't know how to approach the enormity of the material without recognizing its fundamental absurdity. All right, let's take a look at B-1 Nuclear Bomber. So, of course, I have it on my disc of pirated Avalon-Hill games. Sorry, Avalon-Hill, I was 10. What do you want? We can look at the source code. This game was written in AppleSoft BASIC. It's a fairly dense program. So you can see here on line 35, we're declaring an array of all the commands we're going to be using during the game. And you can see the game only pays attention to the first two characters of each command. Here, starting on line 50, we have all the data for the cities we may or may not be bombing. And we can look at this. And in fact, when I had this game back in the day, I didn't have a manual. When I needed to know how to play it, I would look at the source code just like this. So let's actually just jump right in here. Hot war, hot war, hot war. So there's a detail here that is worth mentioning. And that detail is that this failsafe code is actually super important. And if you don't write down the failsafe code, or if you have a better memory than I do, you cannot win the game because you need it to arm your nuke. Now, you can arm your nuke right away and then it'll be armed, but that causes all of the defense network stations to target you more aggressively. So our primary target is Murmansk. We could also pick an alternate. If you pop up a map of Russia, what you see is that some of these cities are closer to the polar region than others. So a cheat is to pick the city that is closest and just do that one. But we will actually go for Murmansk today. So we're going to look at the commands. So how do we know what the commands are? Well, let's see if we can find that out. Oh, look at that. We were able to get the commands. Now, if you saw that pause was time passing. So just us asking for help caused time to pass. So let's navigate. We want to know where Murmansk is. And the navigate command, the manual calls it out as a command that takes significant amounts of time. So you don't want to do that while a MiG or a SAM is hot on your tail. So it's bearing 149.2. So we're going to change our course to 149.2, although it may actually be in a different place now because time has passed. And let's adjust our altitude. I'd like to go in fairly low because I'd like to be below the radar if possible. If the lowest we can fly is 300 meters, I believe. I believe it's meters and not feet. And the highest is 25,000. It probably is feet. But if you fly too low, you run the risk of a terrain following failure, and it makes evasive action more likely to kill you. So I'm going to try 800 feet. So below 1,000 feet, but not too high. And let's do one more navigation since no one is chasing us at the moment. And correct the spelling of that. Now it's at 147.4, and you could see we've gone only about a kilometer in that time. We'll do that again. Oops. Fortunately, it still understood the command. All right, and I'm curious whether that's changed again. I'm going to do it one more time. Oops, I typed literally the wrong course. You know, in nuclear war here, we're supposed to be very careful, but it turns out one careless navigator and you bombed the wrong city. Okay, so it looks like with each command, we're moving about maybe 50 kilometers. So let's try using the autopilot. I don't actually know the speed we're moving at here. Let's try running the autopilot for 30 minutes. And it will interrupt us if anything super important happens. Super important is someone launches a MiG or someone launches a surface-to-air missile. The manual specifically calls out leaving the range of a target as being something that will not drop you out of the autopilot. Now, it's not actually going to make us wait 30 minutes in real time. All right, so we've now been attacked by a surface-to-air missile, so we have to decide what to do. First off, we can use ECM, electronic countermeasures, to dodge it. The problem is that doing that will decrease the effectiveness of ECM in the future. So we'd rather use evasive actions if possible. Before I do that, I'm going to see if this base, Pichenga, is within our missile range. And if it is, I'm going to destroy it. There are 20 defense bases. Nope. Okay, I'm going to play this very risky here. I'm just going to continue on for 100 seconds. My bet here is that they're not going to launch more missiles at me. All right, so now they're 30 seconds away. I'm going to try evasive action. It's not working. All right, well, let's try this. I think this is actually going to get me killed. Boom, we died. Oh, we didn't die. Wow, that's amazing. Let's reset our altitude. Maybe they think they got us. I don't think there's any kind of damage status. So obviously SAM-2 decided to aim at this base SARPA, so that didn't work. I suspect that what I should have done was type the number 2 as the target for the missile. I also think I'm trying to remember this from when I played this 40 years ago. I think if you use a Phoenix missile on a surface-to-air missile and it's very close to your plane, you can still get caught in the airburst. So let's say status. Whoa, our course is way the heck off. Maybe that's because we can fire our weapon. The weapon is actually a It's called an SRAM. It's a nuclear-armed missile, not a bomb. So we could fire it at Murmansk once we are within about 250 kilometers, I believe. So I'm going to raise my altitude, and at which point I expect we're going to get a lot more people firing at us. But what can you do? You know, you got to murder 1 million people. That's what the game wants us to do, so we have to do it. This is the kind of emotional context of this type of game. It's very weird. All right, so we are going to go ahead and arm the bomb. That is really going to draw some enemy attention. Now we need our failsafe code. QYOUV. Oh, and immediately they're going to fire at us. So let's continue on. I'm going to do autopilot for another 30 seconds. Okay, so it turns out you don't need to enter any target if you just want to shoot at the closest thing in range. So we're going to try and take out these MiGs. We missed. We need to go 20 kilometers. Murmansk in bomb range. We are going to fire our SRAM. And the command to fire the SRAM is BO. So, bomb. Target. Confirmed drop. 1 million people dead. So now we need to get out of here. So we're going to, first of all, we've got a MiG on our tail, so we really don't want to start navigating at this point, but I'm just going to assume that Thule Air Force Base is going to be closer to 0 degrees, and I'm going to change course, and we're going to drop our altitude down to about 600. Try and shoot this MiG a couple times. It's not good. All right. So let's find out how far to Tool. 303. Okay, 0 wasn't a bad guess. 303.1. And I believe that now that I have released my SRAM, I will still be shot at, but I think they are not as interested in me now that I've already fired. Revenge does not motivate the computer in this game. So let's go ahead and wait for 45 minutes. Cue the elevator music. Do 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 do. We're pretty far from Thule, but maybe we're out of the woods here. Let's wait for 2 hours. We ran out of fuel. Wonderful. We're dead, but we did destroy Murmansk, which I feel is really an achievement. So not too bad for our first attempt at committing nuclear atrocities. And we can go again. So I'm curious about why we ran out of fuel. I thought that there was an assumption that we would be refueling. I know the manual talks about that. Maybe we need to be above a certain altitude in order to do that. Let's go one more time and see what happens. Nice little bug there. Oh, Moscow. Oh, this is going to be great. Oh, this will be easy. I'm sure Moscow is not heavily defended. Oh, we actually have our speed of 4,500. Okay, so that's why we missed Thule. I actually overflew it by several thousand kilometers, like a dope. Moscow is less than an hour away if we're going 4,500 kilometers per hour. Our altitude, we are way too high. Let's go down to about 700. I think feels good. Oh, and actually, I did it. I did exactly what I talked about. I forgot to write down the failsafe code, so I can't do this. So I have to start over. You would not believe how many games of this as a 10-year-old I lost because I did not write down the failsafe code. All right, writing down the failsafe code. Again, I didn't have the manual, and I definitely remember playing games and immediately typing in the failsafe code, not realizing that that was going to trigger more attacks from the enemy. Okay, so we could bomb Murmansk and leave. Since we're within range of Pechenga, I'm going to go ahead and take it out. Even asking for status. There we go. Thank goodness. Okay, so we're going to drop our altitude back down to 700. And let's check where we are in relation to Sverdlovsk. All right, we're still pretty far away. I think we can autopilot for 15 minutes or so. Okay, we've got 3 MiGs on our tail. This seems like a good time to use some ECM. Fabulous. One thing I'd like to do is actually look at the source code and figure out what's the coefficient at which your ECM becomes less effective. I think that would be really interesting. Command equals 0 for I equals 1 to 12. So ECM is the second command. The first one is autopilot, so it's going to be number 2. So on CM go to, it looks like 970. And then we generate a random number, and if the random number is greater than whatever our value was, then our ECM starts losing its effectiveness, I think. Right, on line 1010, we see E, which I'm assuming or inferring is effectiveness of the ECM. E equals E times 0.7 plus 0.3 times a random number. So the best case here is that your ECM does not lose effectiveness at all. If you get a random number close to 1, then it would be 0.7 plus 0.3. So E would stay close to 1. The worst case is that you'd get 0.7. So your ECM would become 70% less effective each time you use it. Okay, we're going to bomb. Now first we have to arm with the failsafe code that I very carefully wrote down. And now they all start shooting at me. Good. We're going to change course to something more north-ish. Now we're going to drop our altitude to something low. And we're going to use some ECM. And it's still effective. That's great. And let's figure out this time how far Thule is. And this time, let's not fly all the way to Canada and crash. Lots of MiGs. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and use ECM. Now you could see it's starting to lose its effectiveness. We only got rid of 2 of them there. We still missed. I think we're in trouble. We crashed. So that's the story of B-1 Bomber. We have killed 2 million people in our brief Let's Play, but both times for various reasons, including crew incompetence and enemy action, our bomber has not made it out of the Soviet Union to take its place in the irradiated hellscape that the Earth would be in afterwards. Thanks for watching.